I used to carry a 9mm all the time. A little bit of failure is what makes you stronger. Recycle your pain. You can't just say, okay, let's pull up my bootstraps and let's do this. I wanted more. I wanted more. I needed more. I needed to be successful for myself. Fear is manifested in our minds. Good evening. I'm Scott Binsack, and thank you for joining me. Tonight, I'm going to be discussing the war on Ebola or war for oil. U.S. boots in Africa. We have boots everywhere. The United States and Britain and the United Nations are waging wars across the planet. President Barack Obama is going to go down in history as the most aggressive war mongrel president of all times, to surpass George Bush and Dick Cheney. Amazingly, we have declared a war on a virus. A virus that strangely, and I don't believe in coincidences, has broken out in strategic areas in Africa that map out exactly in the same areas where vast amounts of untapped oil have been found and that China has been going after for a while now. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger back in the 70s stated to the world in a speech that he who controls the oil controls other nations. In other words, he who controls all the resources, especially oil, controls the world. The world's in chaos. The world is in chaos. You may not want to believe that, but the world is in chaos. And the average person gets to only see what they see on CNN and Fox and feed into that media hype and garbage, because it is garbage that you're being fed. And those of us who get our information from secondary sources and from those intelligent enough to read through the vast smoke screens that are being presented to not just the American people, but the world, so to speak. We are on the brink of a world war. Don't kid yourself. And it's planned that way. The United States and NATO are on the doorstep of Russia. And Russia wants no part of world globalization. Neither does China. Vladimir Putin actually exposed in a recent speech what people will call the New World Order he wants no part of. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I go on facts and common sense. As I stated in my last show about Ebola, population is a big problem on this planet. And the elite believe they have the right to control that. Because honestly, there isn't enough resources for the population to continue to grow. So something has to be done. But more so, it comes down to power and greed and a thinking process of the elite to believe that they're the ones that can make the decisions for mankind. We have a president who's basically a puppet. And he had stated when he took office to the world, he was going to change America and then change the world. Everything out of his mouth is global, 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 global. Just listen to his speeches. Global, 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 global. Coincidence? I don't think so. Nothing's a coincidence. Nothing. Most Americans don't want to believe that their government could do anything to harm the citizens of the United States or even in the world. Very wrong. Very, very wrong. Actually, it's been proven fact that our government has started a majority of the world's wars that we have come to battle with. And even if we look at ISIS, complete hype, complete madness in the Middle East. Our government has had a plan with our British allies to cut up the Middle East into pieces. Factual plan. They want to cut it up, control the oil, and split it up and have control along with Israel. This is a proven fact. Do you really think ISIS fighters in their these are supposed to be terroristic Middle Eastern jihadists running around wreaking havoc in, Syria, Iraq? They're well organized, all in nice new uniforms, nice shiny flags, and most of all, with United States weapons. I wonder where they got those from. Proven. In fact, the CIA has funded this war and many others. You see, for centuries, we create these wars. We like to go in, destabilize a country, put in our own puppet people, and by destabilizing them, we can come in and act like to the world, to you, that it's a peacekeeping war. We must save ourselves from terrorism. ISIS is everywhere. ISIS is just another name for the Taliban, renamed for more hype in the media. And they just popped up, these guys running around in the sand just popped up with, all these great weapons and uniforms and well-trained and wreaking havoc across the world, killing Christians over there and beheading American journalists. And, this just happened. Poof. Turned on CNN and Fox and ABC and everywhere else. And we just saw this. Oh my God, there's some new terrorists running around, ISIS. And now they're going to come to American soil. And now we have Ebola. Now we have Ebola, a virus that I had released today, a link that clearly proves this disease was genetically created in biolabs in Africa. Doctors have admitted this. And it makes sense. Do you really think these viruses have just coincidentally crawled out of the jungles of Africa and run rampant? No, not even close. People go, why would we do that? Really? Really? Why would we do that? Why would we do this? We want power, control. We want the resources, and they want to cut this planet up like a pizza pie. The elitists want to cut it up like a pizza pie. This is all proven. This is proven factual information I'm telling you, and easily researched, and I'm going to be providing a lot of the links to where I've get my information from with the blog on this show. All at the expense of lives. You see, Africa has been the testing ground for many things. Many things, many viruses. Now we have troops there, and it was just reported in the Washington Post, I have it here, that an interview with one of the sergeant majors going over there. We are going over there to take fight to the enemy. The enemy? We're going to start shooting bacteria, virus. We're going to kill this virus. We are going over there to take the fight to the enemy, which is sending, troops to Liberia to provide stability to the region. In this situation, the enemy is Ebola and the spread of Ebola in Africa. Do you know, in the well-staged in a well-staged appearance at the CDC Center in Georgia, President Obama declares war on Ebola, calling it, quote, a global threat, and it demands a truly global response. This is an epidemic that is not just a threat to the regional security, meaning us, is a potential threat to the global security. If these countries break down, if their economies break down, if people panic, and Obama continued with this, conjuring up images of this massive, zombie-looking world where, chaos is taking place. It has profound effects on all of us, he says, because of this. And even if we're not directly contracting the disease, the outbreak is already spiraling out of control. Oh my God, it's spiraling out of control. Here's a key fact. Key fact. Certified Ebola deaths to date can't even be confirmed because it's been admitted that 69% of all the Ebola cases in Liberia, Africa, registered by the WHO, the World Health Organization, also controlled, have not been laboratory confirmed. So they have not been laboratory confirmed. You don't even know if it's Ebola. 69% have not been tested or confirmed, but yet they're claimed to have this alleged disease that came from the jungles of Africa and is being transmitted by animal meat to the people, allegedly, and by bats. Yet the U.S. has several biolabs in Africa, which is biological warfare labs, because they're not permitted in the United States, and there's some still here that have been exposed, but what better place to go unnoticed to create a virus and test it out on people in Africa? Because, as it's been stated, population control, Africa's out of control with its population, its poverty, its overall sickness, living conditions, you name it. Just like HIV and AIDS. Oh, that came from a monkey. Yeah. In other words, monkeys spread it. No, not at all. And if you believe this crap, I feel sorry for you. Because what's going on now is a crossroads, as I've stated, in modern history. I'll explain it to you simply, even better, and give you some examples. Most of you, I bet, don't even know it. Does you know what the EU is? The EU, obviously, it's a currency, but the EU is a group of European countries who have joined together to make one main country, so to speak. They all have the same currencies, same currency, etc. It's been noted that they want to have one entire world currency, one global currency, or no currency at all, but one global use of funds as we continue to print money that doesn't exist because it's not backed by anything. But the idea is to have, all the European communities joined, the Canada, United States, Mexico, etc., Northern Alliance, American Union, North American Union, yada yada yada. This isn't madness. It's true. But most of all, it's the biggest lie you've ever been fed. And people every day keep following it. Change your vote. Your vote can make a difference. No. Your rights are being taken away every day. We have wars going on around the world. We now have a war on virus, and your son or daughter could be over there fighting a war on a virus. In strategic areas, how strange is this, where the largest world oil reserves have been found, and that China has been trying to gain access to. So strangely, Ebola breaks out in this key area, as well as diamonds. Key part here about U.S. boots in Africa. Most of the diamond mines have been on strike for a long time, causing serious problems in the diamond trade. We have these issues going on in the key area that virus breaks out that is patented by the United States. It's patented by the United States. The link is up on my page. Does any of this make any sense? I hope not. Meaning, as far as common sense. Patent on a virus, proven test that it has gone airborne. There's proven new strains of this virus that have been made in labs and by doctors who have participated in these programs. CDC officials have come out and said the same. Forced vaccinations coming. And the key to the article that I was discussing to you is that here it is. Global health officials have a plan to bring Ebola victims out of their home where they can easily spread the virus and treat them in these health facilities being built by the U.S. military. These victims will be removed from their homes by force if necessary. So now the U.S. military, with only 4 hours training on hazmat suits, etc., is going to go into African homes, remove people that don't want to go, bring them to these treatment facilities, and I'm sure they're going to do the same with the vaccinations. Drag them out of their home. They don't want to go, I'm sure they'll be killed. And what does anybody care? In the vast billions of population, what's a few thousand deaths? Nothing, actually, if you think about it. Nothing. But every human life is something. I should hope so. The enemy is Ebola. What? And people buy this crap. Really? The president in the largest, it is the largest in CDC history, the largest international response in the history of the CDC. The largest. ISIS. We're bombing and cutting up and destroying other countries, allegedly to stop ISIS. But we're funding ISIS and creating the situation there and have destabilized the regions. And now we're back in Iraq, and don't kid yourself, that's how they want it. Let's not forget Afghanistan. What in the world are we doing there? Still doing there. And if we look even at the story of Bin Laden flying on a horse, if you do your homework, you'll see that Bin Laden was a creature created by the CIA as well. And the only thing that you see, and you don't even, is pictures at that time when we're showing Bin Laden. And Bin Laden's based on a fictional character from a book. Serious. If you look at the book Bin Laden and the story Bin Laden, you'll see that it fits exactly to what was created of this alleged mass terrorist. If you don't have a villain, what's the sense? People aren't going to believe it. But if you're led to believe that our country is going to be attacked by terrorists, then you'll back a war. If you're given no reason, then there can't be any war. And thus there's no fear. But if fear is created in you to believe that, like, even this virus is coming to your backyard, or that it's being spread and has to be controlled in Africa before it gets here, but yet the president allows flights to continue in from these countries. Really? Of course, really. What do you expect? They had to get the virus here somehow. So now let's just fly them in. Several whistleblowers prior to this Ebola outbreak, and I mean months prior, predicted what they called a false flag operation via a virus. These are people, ex-CIA, etc. It's all over the internet. You can do your homework, check it out. By decent sources. People go, oh, those are the whack jobs. Really? That whack job predicted Ebola would be in the United States several months ago under the false flag guise of a serious outbreak. Who's nuts now? Him? Or you for not believing his story and thinking everybody's a nut job who comes around and looks at the facts, takes in all the evidence, and puts it together? Power, resources, oil, diamonds, gold, control. We're at a crossroads in world history right now on this planet. If you are led to believe that this is for the good of mankind and for peace, and that a virus won't spread or that terrorists won't come to the United States, then you'll fall for it and go for it and back it. We have been creating wars for centuries. And we have been backing them, financing them, and resulting in the death of our own citizens. Documentation has come out, videos have come out, proving that our government is backing ISIS. Proven our government has biolabs and has a patent on Ebola as a weapon of mass destruction. Proven that the areas of the outbreaks in Africa are the same areas that contain all this oil, and that the Chinese have been in seeking the same. Coincidence? I don't think so. No coincidences. None. None at all. No coincidences. So now we'll probably end up with 4,000 to 5,000 troops over there. And Obama's answer was, well, what if they contract Ebola? We'll just treat them at home, he said. Your sons, your daughter, your husbands, your wives. Now, I've also seen these treatment centers and pictures of them, of troops. They're laying out razor wire by the droves. Tons of razor wire. Looks like they're building concentration camps, not hospitals. I know. Let's talk about Obama's war against Qaddafi in Libya, another African country. Qaddafi, they destroyed him. We destroyed him with our counterparts in Britain and Israel. Why did we destroy him? If you do your homework, Qaddafi sat on a huge and vast amount of oil. Qaddafi, the key reason, Qaddafi was stockpiling gold, like China and Russia are doing now. China and Russia are stockpiling gold. China has just come out with their own World Bank because they're tired of dealing with the elites, World Bank, Rockefellers, you name it. Qaddafi was about to convert money, their money, to gold, using gold certificate style money. Because fiat money is what we produce, which is garbage, nothing, it's worthless. And there's no gold backing anything. It's just paper. Just paper, and they got to keep this they have to keep this debt reoccurring and reoccurring and reoccurring and reoccurring so they can keep printing more to keep it all going. If not, it collapses like a pyramid scheme, because it's basically what it is, so to speak. It's the biggest fraud that you'll ever know. And you're going to feel it more and more as it collapses. China's going to its own, using its own money. Russia. Anyway, Qaddafi was about to and announced that he was going to go to gold certificated money for the purchase and sale of oil. If he did that, the World Bank, the Federal Reserve, pure devastation. Russia, Putin, has announced he's doing the same just recently. But see, Qaddafi then had to go. Let's make him out to be the bad guy. Yet Qaddafi was one of the better leaders in the region to spend billions and billions of dollars on infrastructure, education, housing, food, etc. for his own people. But they flashed you all these images, alleged images of Qaddafi attacking his own people. Really? If you do your homework, you'll see that there really is no proof of that. Again, what you see and what they feed you. Here's a good question for you. And I'm just throwing this out there because it's part of the whole big picture. You had 2 planes fly into the Pentagon, 9/11. Do you know for sure if anybody was in those planes, or that the 2 men that they alleged were in those planes? You can't. There's no way to know any of it except the pictures that they showed you, which came from the Pentagon and the government, to say that those two men were the men in those planes. Really? Here's a quick thing to throw right in there now. And it's a piece of evidence that most have not been told or have not paid attention to about the World Trade Center attacks. Besides that of Building 7 just imploding by itself and nothing had struck it. An important building, by the way. The key piece is this. 2 weeks before the towers were attacked, the owner, very prominent individual, called up his insurance companies and changed the insurance policies on the towers to include coverage of terrorist attacks. Two weeks before, called up his insurance company to include coverage of terrorist attacks. And after the attacks, he tried to get paid twice for both buildings, when in fact they paid him only once. He claimed that both buildings should be insured in separately. Is that a coincidence? I rest my case. You can argue about all the other evidence you want. That key fact says it all. 2 weeks before, and he received billions and billions of dollars for the loss of his buildings. And I know he must have just had a dream one night 2 weeks before that told him he had to change his entire insurance policy on both buildings and surrounding that he owns to cover an attack by terrorists. Okay. Yes. Yep. Okay. Now I see, I just came home from New York, and you see people riding trains with masks on and walking around in like panic in New York City because there's one victim alleged to have Ebola. And I say alleged because I think this whole thing stinks. Bad. Real bad. And the more evidence that's put out there, and I don't mean on Ted Turner, CNN, or Fox, another group of idiots. The more evidence I see, the more this stinks bad. A CDC whistleblower, a recent article that's been flying all over Facebook, claims that the vaccination for Ebola would have microchips in it. And it's almost a proven fact that eventually, and it's already there, that the government wants to microchip us. And I'm not talking prophecy crap or anything else. I'm telling you the facts. They want to microchip us. Now they're taking away our driving rights. Maybe you haven't seen the new article in Time Magazine and what's going on. Driverless cars, cars that drive themselves. Within 10 years, driving a car is going to be it's already a privilege. Most people don't know that. Under the law, driving is a privilege across the United States. It's not a right, it's a privilege. And they have the right to take that privilege away from you if you don't obey the law. Well, now it's going to be driverless cars that drive themselves. In fact, as of next year, the laws are being changed as we speak to accept driverless cars. And it's more rights being taken away. Driving a car is going to be for the elite. If you don't connect all these dots and look at this, then you're a fool. You're a fool, and I'm going to say you're a fool. Because I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I look at the facts and say, well, they say, how do you know what they're writing is true? Because I double check what they're saying. There's only so many people, you know, if one person tells you a story, okay, if 2, 3, 4, 5, and the sources are different and they confirm, doctors across the world are coming out that have dealt with this Ebola. Just different strains. The United States, in my last show, I proved they already knew in the late 80s that Ebola is airborne. It spreads like the flu. Another key. The Obama administration and Pentagon policy has continued that of George W. Bush, who in 2008 created the U.S. Military African Command, AFRICOM it's called, to battle a rapidly growing Chinese economic presence in Africa's potential oil-rich countries. West Africa is rapidly emerging oil treasure, barely tapped to date. The U.S. Department of Energy study projected that African oil production would rise 91% between 2002 and 2025, much from the region of the present Ebola outbreak. Washington Post. Chinese oil companies are all over Africa, increasingly active in West Africa, especially Angola, Sudan, and Guinea. The latest in the epicenter of Obama's new war on Ebola troop deployment. If the U.S. president were genuine about his concern to contain a public health emergency, he could look at an example of the U.S. declared pariah Caribbean nation, Cuba. Reuters reports that Cuban government, a small, financially distressed, economically sanctioned island nation of 11 million people with a national budget of 50 billion gross domestic product, blah, 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 is dispatching 165 medical personnel to Africa to regions where there are Ebola outbreaks. Washington sends 3,000 combat troops and more on their way. Something smells rotten. Largest declaration ever in CDC history. Obama, Syria. Yep. Blasting them to shreds. Christians dying every day. Military not allowed to have Bibles anymore. Yeah, it's true. Military units are not allowed to have Bibles anymore. The world is mad. Complete chaos. I believe a lot of people are waking up now. And yeah, there's some paranoid nuts and complete conspiracy retards out there, of course, that bring it to the extreme. Facts are facts. Truth is truth. It's about power, money, control, and most of all, the madness of controlling the world. It's gone on for centuries. Kings fighting over land, resources, gold. Do people think it just stopped when America was created? No, it got worse. Look what we did to the Indians in America. Look at what we did. We came in and slaughtered them. Took their land, took their resources. It's parasitical, like parasites. Seen the movie Men in Black? They said, you've destroyed this planet. You're parasites. Parasitical. Truth. It's pure madness. Listen to what I tell you. Get your facts straight and open your mind. You don't have to agree with me, but at least start to open your mind to what is being truly shown to you. Not this media hype garbage that Ted Turner and the rest of them want you to believe. They're all part of the elite. Do you know the Ebola virus outbreak started, allegedly, but it was the first case in a clinic run by Bill and Melinda Gates, one of the richest men in the world. Yep. Why would they want to do that to people? This is how people go around. Why do you want to do that to people? Really? Really? I know. Why would we want to kill our own people in 9/11? Without a bad guy or a bad cause, now we have terrorists spreading across the globe, and ISIS is going to be in our backyard. Da 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 da. Really? If ISIS shows up in the United States, it's because we nailed them, or we claimed that they did something that we did under a false flag. Fact. Do you know how simple it is to go to Home Depot and get the right ingredients to make a bomb? And you could walk into any store and explode it. Why, if you know, there's all these terrorists running all mad in the United States in secret cells and all this BS, how come they're not blowing things up simply all the time? Madness. Pure madness. And now you have innocent troops who believe they're fighting for a good cause when they're simply pawns in a game. Sad, we're all pawns in this game. We are all pawns in this game. And this is a very serious game. And it's heating up. And it's at a crossroads. Because China and Russia are not going to take it anymore. Trust what I tell you. Putin is a gangster. He's a gangster. And he's not stupid. And the reason why he went in to take parts of Crimea in the Ukraine, is because, one, that's where Russian bases are. But most importantly, because he caught our country red-handed after spending $5 billion to oust the president that was there to replace it by its own puppet president so that the United Nations could come in and then Ukraine could become part of the UN. Fact, check it out. We got caught. And he's like, really? You think you're going to do that to us? Okay, sure. No, not happening. I'm sure you do the same thing. I'm sure you would. So let's make Russia out to be the bad guy, right? Of course. Everybody else is the bad guy but the United States, when we're the ones wreaking havoc across the world with Britain, Israel, and everywhere else, and a few other parties. Saudi Arabia is with us as well. Pure madness. Let's blame everybody else. Let's detonate a nuke in New York and let's blame it on Iran. Really? Okay. As Obama said in his own speech 2 months ago, I'm more worried about a nuke going off in New York than I am anything else. Really, Mr. President? Where did you pull that from? People only hear and see what they want to see. You need to change your view and see what's really going on before it's too late. They're already removing the guns from people in New York, California, and a couple other states. Your rights are being taken away every day. And there really is no civil rights. Trust me when I tell you. Our civil rights are gone. They're gone. And the world's gone mad. You gotta ask yourself this one simple question. Can you just keep the world going and going and going and going and going and growing and growing and growing and growing. You can't. It's just going to implode. And they want to control it. And they're saying it's for the better of our good. Yeah, be right on that. And Africans are used as pawns in this game since I can remember. It's a continent that is just also out of control with pure poverty. It's sad. It's horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Whole thing's horrible. Obama's new war on Ebola is for oil, control, and strategic to place U.S. bases in Africa because China is taking a stronghold there. Stay tuned. Can't wait to see what's happening next. Good night. God bless.